Much for inviting us here today. We're with YouthCare, and I'm going to speak as though you have never heard about YouthCare before, but I know that some of you probably have, and some of you probably also know a little bit about the issue we serve. We work with homeless youth in Seattle and King County, and we've been around since 1974. We started actually as a very small 3-bedroom shelter, actually in a 3-bedroom house on Beacon Hill. We were one of the first runaway homeless youth shelters on the entire West Coast. And from those humble beginnings, we learned a lot about working with young people. And today in Seattle and King County, sorry, I should say in King County, at any one point in time, there's about 1,000 young people experiencing homelessness every night. So tonight we think about 1,000 people having to find a place to stay. And some of that might be shelters, some of that might be temporary housing, couch surfing, camping. There's all different scenarios that the young people that we serve encounter to try to stay safe and warm, especially right now. But what we also know, though, beyond that general head count, is that every young person we serve is an individual, unique person who has come to us with all kinds of life experiences and has an incredible potential to continue on a path that and pursue those hopes and dreams that they have for themselves as a young person. We have we serve 12 to 25-year-olds at YouthCare, and we see all different types of youth from all backgrounds. We have about 1,500 young people using our services a year. This year's a little different, of course. We'll just say that as a caveat. But we know that the young people we serve, actually nationwide, 90% of them are reporting a conflict at home or in their home community. A third of the young people we serve identify as LGBTQ plus. That's compared to 5% of the nation that might identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer. So that's already a disparity that you might notice in, disproportionately representing LGBTQ populations. We also know that the young people that we serve at YouthCare are about 50% youth of color, which is pretty stark in a community that's about 70% white. And so we also see that type of disproportionate representation. And this tells us something not only about the barriers that youth have encounters in their life, but also about the systems that they have to navigate. And so our job as an agency is our goal is to end youth homelessness, thinking of a community that never has young people who have to worry about where they're going to sleep tonight or if that's a safe place for them to be. And so we have grown from that 3-bed shelter to have about 14 different physical locations throughout Seattle. We have emergency shelters, which is kind of the topic of tonight, where it's really meant to be sort of a shorter term stay, a temporary stay. We have housing programs where youth can live for up to 2 years. We have apartments where youth can live and learn to live independently. We also have education and employment programming on site, in-house, as well as partnerships in the community that focus on education and employment opportunities as well. The reason that I'm excited to speak to you all tonight, that Mo and I are excited to speak to you all tonight, is that we are in the process of moving our shelter to the Rainier Beach neighborhood. Right now, it is currently in, COVID has turned all our services upside down. The shelter has been at in Columbia City for a couple years. Mo can talk a little more about the timeline if that's of interest, but it's been in Columbia City and with Southeast Youth and Family Services for a few years, and the basement where we had that shelter operating was too tight for appropriate social distancing to occur. And we already had the interest to move the shelter to a larger space that wasn't in a basement, but this just catalyzed that move. And so we were lucky enough to find a building for rent that was, the address is, oh gosh, Mo, I don't know if I'm going to get this right. 9416 Rainier Avenue South, I think. Anyways, it's with, okay, he says I got it. It's currently, or it was formerly a beauty supply store. I think it might be recognizable. It's blue and orange. I'm sure some of you might remember driving by it. And we have signed now a 15-year lease to be able to provide services in that building that will really encompass our South Seattle shelter. And Mo, I'm so honored that Mo is here tonight. He is the manager of that shelter as well as our other shelter. This is a shelter for 18 to 24-year-olds. And Mo, has really revisioned the way that YouthCare does shelter with youth, because it is a very special population to work with. It's not the same as working with homeless adults. And so he has really brought a whole new vision to what shelter can do for young people. And in his leadership, more youth are getting housed, more youth are feeling connected to community, more youth are creating community amongst themselves and moving themselves forward with education and employment. And so it is, I'm just wanted to shout out to Mo, and also he will be the face that you see most often in and out of the building amongst the rest of the staff that he manages. So he will give you all his contact information, and of course you can have mine as well. One thing I wanted to say before I pass it off to Mo to tell you a little more about the shelter. I think I could tell you stories. I could tell you more statistics. I could also tell you, why I think you should care about the young people that we serve, right? I think one really important fact that we really like to point out also is that adults who are experiencing homelessness right now in Seattle, there's a lot of the folks who are camping in the tents are going to be the adults that we think of, the chronically homeless adults, right? And so one of our kind of bonus motivators at YouthCare is that adults who are experiencing homelessness report 50% of them report experiencing homelessness before they were 25. So we also see this as an kind of an extra reason to prevent that longer term experience of homelessness if we can intercept this right now. And that's exactly what Mo and his team want to be able to do. So with that, I know you all probably have questions, and I think Mo and I will open that up to questions after Mo's done speaking about the logistics of the program a little bit and a little bit more about everything specifically about the program. So do keep your questions, but I want Mo to be able to really speak about what the South Seattle shelter is really all about.
Thank you so much, Randy, for that introduction, and thank you to this group for having us. And I think Randy's team have also been very incredibly supportive to us as direct service practitioners, and a lot of the achievements that we have made could not have been without the support that we get from your team. So I think this is about a group effort of us all working together as partners, but also within the same agency and the same team. So as Randy has said, this particular shelter evolved about about 4 years ago, when the former mayor of Seattle, Mayor Ed Murray, declared an emergency in Seattle with an increasing number of homelessness. At the time, the city of Seattle was the third largest homeless population in the country, and 47% of that population of homeless people or people experiencing homelessness were between the age of 18 and 24. And that number was very alarming. And YouthCare at the time was only providing one shelter in South Seattle, in South Lake Union, called the Alliance Center. One population that was not served in that particular moment was brown and Black communities, indigenous communities, and minority groups. And traditionally, we know that this particular population, because of gentrification and because of financial challenges or income inequalities, are found within the South Seattle region. And that's how YouthCare started a new shelter in Jackson and right across the street of Jackson and Rainier Beach South, or Rainier Valley. And that's where the shelter started with like a house in there. So over the years, while we continue to engage young people and supporting young people, we have decided to kind of break out from the downtown bubble and bring this shelter to the community that needs it, and whereby our young people will not be required to navigate the systems and try to reach out to those resources, but want the resources to be available to them at their own reach. So we moved further south to the new building. The building at Hudson. Under the we were accommodated by the Southeast Youth and Family Services in their basement. That's where this shelter continues to operate 2 years ago. So as we experienced in COVID and needed to have a bigger space, we engaged our young people and asked them about where would they want to see the shelter operate from. And our young people unanimously, about 20 of them unanimously, choose that they wanted us to be within the South Seattle area, Columbia City, Rainier Beach area. And because one, this is a place that most of them grew up from, went to Franklin High School, went to Rainier Beach Community Center, and then this is their neighborhood. This is where they go, and this is what they know as home. And two, this is where they have support systems, like they will go and access services at the South Atlantic Street, or they will go to the community beach or community center to play basketball. And this is where they can go to the libraries to access services. And this is where they identified all their resources. So as a program, we engage the leadership in YouthCare to help us find space. And luckily, we were able to get the building that Randy just spoke about, which is located on 94166 Rainier Avenue South. And we have a 15-year lease, as Randy said. That means we were there, it's a new home. And we'll be able to provide a transitional program. So what YouthCare is doing, we're trying to create a pathway to exit homelessness. Traditionally, shelters will just create a lottery system where a young person will put their name on a list, and then by the end of the day, there will be a lottery, and then the first 20 people that make the list have a place to stay for that night. So there was no bed guaranteed. It was purely on luck. So when we evaluated that model, we saw that model was causing more instability than stabilizing the young person, because a young person is waking up in the morning with that dilemma of where am I going to sleep tonight, and that is something that they cannot just wrap around the day ahead. So with this new program, we created a 90 days guaranteed bed that the young person will have, and then in the 90 days we enroll them to an enhanced case management system that a case manager will enroll them into their caseload, work with them to define what services and resources this young person need, by the young person leading that conversation and informing or identifying what kind of services they need. And the case manager will help navigate the resources and the systems and the tools that this young person need to succeed. And through that relationship, we were able to see a lot of incredible results. I like talking about stories that of young people that I have just seen because of my evolution in YouthCare, starting from an outreach worker into case management, into a supervisor, and now managing the shelter. So I have had the opportunity to work with a lot of young people around the spectrum. A particular case was a young person that I met when I was doing outreach. And this young person was homeless and uh, since she was 12. Um, she got shot, I think about 4 times, and she was on a wheelchair. She was in downtown, weighed less than 100 pounds, and was about uh, 5.510, 5'11". And this young person was always using drug and alcohol abuses and was not engaging or connected to any resources. So once we were able to connect with her, we tend to find out that this young person was homeless because she got raped at home by a close family member. And when she tried to tell the story, nobody believed her. And she happens to be trying to flee the house that she was raped from and was hanging out with a friend on Aurora, and that's where she got shot at on a crime that she was not involved, just being there at the wrong time. So over time that she connected with Youth Care, we were able to help connect with her with resources that get her to go through a sobriety treatment. Since she became clean, we were able to support her to get housed. We were able to support her with the to go through a treatment because of the gunshots that she have, the injuries that she have sustained through the gunshot. She have never gone through a proper treatment. So Youth Care, because of that experience, we were able to start a clinic on site with volunteers from Kaisers that provide free physical health for all our clients, and also create some more partnership with riders and some other behavioral health providers to also provide some behavioral services. So today, this young person have not only been able to gain motion and be able to walk again, but they have got a house. They have been clean for the last 3 years without any use of drugs, and then they are also employed and working. So that's just one of the stories. We had another young person that was fleeing a domestic violence situation. She lost custody of her child in between that. She resulted into using drug just to numb herself, not to remember that experience. And then she was actively in the life as a mean of survival. And our outreach team was able to outreach her, bring her over into the shelter. And as we try to form a relationship, try to understand what she was going through, she became too open and explain her situation. So our CSEC advocates, which is case managers that work with clients that are actively engaged in sex work, we're able to support her with some other alternative form of work without going through that life. And then she have abundant, she have fluid situation. She works now for one of the big giant groceries in Seattle as a deputy store manager, and then she have gained custody of her child back, and then she is also currently enrolled doing her she's in her 4th year in the University of Washington doing a behavioral health applied science program. And another young person that was like incredibly talented in artwork. He will be walking on the streets, like doing his painting work. And sometimes when it rains, everything got soaked and everything just got lost. Like everything just, he lost all of his work. So with work from Youth Care and with support from our development team, we were able to provide this young person a space into our shelters where he can do his own painting and his creative work. The staff was able to help this young person through social media to market his own work. So today, this young person have not only gained like he's not only self-employed from his artwork, but he was able to find his own place in a private Seattle market rate to pay for his own house and then be able to sell his own artwork, and is now a self-employed entrepreneur doing well for his work. And the list continues of the amount of work we do. So this is why we believe that this work is working, but in Youth Care, we don't believe this is just a Youth Care work that we can do alone. We believe in teamwork. We believe in community collaboration. We think for us to be effective in what we do, we will really need support from the community. And sometimes the little thing you do really means a lot. Just being able to provide a young person a meal, a warm meal to eat, that was cooked at home, really are things that can make the young person feel valued, supported, empowered, and a part of a community that cares. Sometimes just providing a sock to a young person during the winter really means a lot because it transforms a life. It provides a young person a dignified life, and it also provides that somebody cares about their journey, and we are here to support them. So Youth Care are very open to collaboration and partnership, and then through Randy's office, if you ever think that you want to do something, reach out to Randy's office. There's always a way that you could support the shelter. And as a community also, we are open to feedback, we are open to ideas, we are open to collaborations, we are open to mentorship, because our young people need mentors. They need mentors in their life. People that some of you have got incredible stories growing up, and those stories can energize a young person to believe to believe that there are possibilities. When things are going dark, some people have gone through that process and they have crossed those bridges, and that can inspire them to continue their resilience, to continue their faith, and to continue in the hard work that they're doing. So we really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you, and I hope we will have more of these conversations to talk about what we're doing and also what you guys are doing and how we can support our communities. So thank you so much for having us, and thank you, Randy, for facilitating this conversation with this incredible team.
Mo, I'm gonna invite you to more 7 p.m. meetings. That was amazing. I am just realizing I don't know when you all usually end.
We're usually pretty flexible with when we end.
Okay.
But we're also mindful of time and that it's the evening and you're here in the evening. If you have time to answer a few questions, if people have them, that'd be great. But you let us know when you need to go, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. I think Mo and I would really love to hear from you all, even if it's not a question. Even we would love to hear comments. And I'm gonna just quickly pop my email address in the chat so that people can follow up. And then Mo, do you want me to put yours in the chat too? Okay. All right. Yeah, let's open it up to questions. I saw Alan's hand up first, but I don't know. Keegan, do you want to facilitate
Yeah.
do questions? Okay.
We usually do it pretty freeform, but Alan, it did look like you had your hand up first, and then Kathy.
I heard Mo talk about how to get involved, but I'm just curious how Youth Care is normally funded. Without, I mean, obviously you can't do it all by volunteer work, correct?
Yeah, that is true.
So Randy's office facilitates community relations, and then in that big development office, there's really support with some private dollars, and sometimes it's just like people dropping checks. In where I sit as a program manager, some of our funding are contract based through the city, sometimes with the county, sometimes with the state, and then sometimes with the government, whereby we apply for grants or apply for funding that are available. And there are also some foundations that also provide funding as well. And it is based on proposal we apply, and then with ideas and innovations of how we want to approach homelessness, and then talk about addressing those specific outcomes that those grants are looking to address.
Thank you.
Thanks. Kathy? You're muted at the moment, Kathy. You're still muted.
Okay, now.
Yes. Now
Okay. I actually have two questions. The first one is, so it sounds to me that you're really providing temporary housing to a limited number of people, and then you're working with the city. Does the city have enough housing to provide following up housing to these children?
The answer is no. The city doesn't have enough housing. So when we Youth Care have two shelters, two young adult shelters, one in Columbia City right now, but moving into Rainier Beach, and one in South Lake Union. And each of the shelters have 20 bed capacity. However, we have a holistic program in the agency, and the agency have multiple departments. We have education and employment that focuses on a pathway to preparing a young person for employment, and some of those pathways includes going back to college. And they work with Seattle public schools on that. There is our prevention team or early intervention that focuses on supporting with other young people that are engaged in commercial sex work, or young people that are in housing but at the verge of losing their housing. How do we get into housing? And also the city YouthCare have what we call our transitional housing program, which is more of a 2-year program that supports a young person who is not ready into permanent housing but needs some life skill method to learn to get into housing. And then we have like about 4 or 5 of that. And we have the young adult shelter under the engagement services. The engagement services have youth centers and then a shelter component in those engagement centers. And then one of them is the Orion Center, and the other one is where we're moving on right now. So in both places, we have a 20-bed capacity with a 90 days program. The 90 days doesn't mean that we have to exit the young person in 90 days. 90 days is like the evaluation period where we go back to evaluate to see, based on the approach we are working with this young person, is it really working? Mm-hmm. Do we need to extend? Do we need to revisit something? Can we go back to drawing board again to see what method work for this young person? And then within the 90 days, our goal is to house a young person, but sometimes some people will take a year or 2, depending on where they are at the time of coming to the shelter. And some of those things could be defined by mental health. Some of those things could be defined by credit or financial ability, and some of those things could be defined by legal things they were a juvenile or when they were younger. So we walk through all those systems, and sometimes it could take longer than that. The city itself creates what they call the through all homes, they create what they call the coordinated entry program, which is a database that we put all the young people that are accessing our program and other homeless services. And through the database, they kind of prioritize who get housing. And then who get housing is based on a vulnerability score. So a young person who just come into the shelter, very energetic, able, doing a lot of things, might not be a high priority than another young person who is pregnant and 7 months expecting, dealing with mental health or having some domestic violence situation. So based on that situation, the algorithm defines who get housing for. But we also try to support our young people to get a job and get an employment and then get a private market house where they can find housing on their own and pay regular rate that you and I will pay in a Seattle competitive market.
And that leads really into my second question, which was, if you were the city trying to determine success of your organization, would they look at how many kids were getting their graduating from high school or getting a GED or getting jobs or finding a permanent housing? And how do you measure success? And do people track whether you are measuring, whether you are?
Yes, so some of our contracts are outcome based. Like I'm managing 3 main projects right now. One funding through the city of Seattle, another funding with King County, and another funding with the state. And the one thing that, or the measurement that they all see is that they look at occupancy. We have 20 bed capacity. How many young people are we offering beds every night? So anytime that we hit a below benchmark of 20, that means that we are missing our numbers. And then every month, they expect that we should exit 35% of our population into permanent housing. And in that process also, they also look at how many young people are we referring to mental health services, how many young people are we referring to education and employment programs, how many young people that access our shelter are getting employed, how many young people that access our shelter are going back to school through a college pathway, or how many young people in our shelter are able to find their own permanent housing. And the city does not recognize like transitional housing as an outcome. They consider it as a continuity of care. So an outcome is when a young person is able to pay for their own rent in a Seattle private market.
Thank you. That was fascinating.
Any other questions? Donovan, Carol, Donovan? I can't see whose hand. Donovan.
My question is, with this high percentage of LGBTQ classification of young people, is there, one of the reasons they're homeless is because I presume domestically they're having friction with their household situations. But I was wondering on the outside, do the faith-based churches and other things, do they pick up the slack, or do they kind of shun those young people with those kind of issues?
So I mean, and
Excellent.
Randy can jump into this as well. So the Youth Care have incredible partnership with some of the faith-based organizations. Like right now, we are housed by one of the church in Beacon Hill, on Beacon and Graham, and they allow us to use their basement as a way that we could social distance effectively for COVID, because our Hudson location is too small to accommodate 20 people. So we had to move 10 young people out of the Hudson location, and a church in Beacon Hill allowed us to use that space. And in that church, we have young people that identified LGBTQ, and the church have been very graceful to allow us to use that space and work with us and give us the support we need as we continue to build our new location. In the University District, when we get hit by COVID, a church on 15th and 145th also allow us to use their church as a space that we could effectively social distance and do some artwork and then engage and support young people to exit homelessness. There are some other churches also that also run shelters in the city of Seattle, different from Youth Care, that also create, that does not discriminate based on somebody's sexuality or sexual identification. And Youth Care as an organization embraces a culture of diversity, embraces a culture of tolerance, and also embraces a culture of inclusion. So when we identify with our partners, these are things that we look into before we form those partnerships with them as well.
Great, thank you.
Of course.
I had a question, and maybe I missed it. When is the shelter moving to Rainier Beach? Is there a timeline on, or is it already operating?
It's currently being renovated inside, so we are in the process of procuring office furniture and things like that. And in case any of you know of a magical office furniture source, but we have been very grateful that a lot of the contractors who are doing some of that work have been doing it pro bono. So we'll be giving them a shout out on our blog sometime soon. I don't know that I can name all of them, but yeah, the move-in date is going to be January 2021. Hopefully January 1st. But I'm saying generally January, just in case construction timelines shift a little bit.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? Vicki?
Well, I just wanted to, I don't know how we could find it, but I know that there is tons of office furniture out there right now that's people are just trying to get rid of for free that are in perfect condition because more and more people are working from home and they're vacating spaces, and somehow, some way, if we could figure out a way to get you hooked up with the free office furniture that's all over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like the solutions-oriented comment here. This is really helpful because it just tells me that you all are a group of, trying to support the community already. And so my team, Mo, has already kind of given it a little bit of a shout out, but I'm responsible for volunteerism and different in-kind donations. So that would include the meals that Mo mentioned or the office furniture type of stuff. That's why I know that we're looking for those things. But yeah, certainly, if you have ideas or if you have questions of other ways that you would want to support, my email is there. And you can also check out our website. I'll put it in the chat too. It's youthcare.org, just to learn a little more. Certainly, we're not really actively engaging most volunteers right now. So that conversation is on hold until it's safe for COVID, after COVID, or whatever that means. But we will at some point be asking folks around the city to help the shelter once they're moved in different ways. So hopefully I can reach out to you all when we know what that means.
And one more place that you could reach out for furniture would be Boeing. I always got my desks and so forth. There's a place down south near Kent where they just have this, what looks to be a huge warehouse, and it's just full of Boeing rejected furniture. And then there's also Microsoft gets rid of computers. Their employees will use their computers for a maximum of 3 months, and then they get kind of stripped of some of the software, and you can get them for hella cheap. But that's
Okay.
another idea.
Only using a computer for 3 months, that's kind of blowing my mind right now.
I know.
Great. These are great tips. I'm going to write that down and look into them. I had heard about the Boeing surplus warehouse. I
Yeah.
forgot about that. Thank you.
And if you just explain what you guys need it for, I wouldn't be surprised if they'll donate and maybe even deliver if and when you need it. Be my guess.
Cool. Thank you.
Hey, any final questions, comments?
So Randy, for donations and stuff, we contact you at Community Partners. That's your email address? Okay.
Yeah, or if you go to youthcare.org, there's a donate button just directly there that you can do.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's also, but yeah, I can help either way. So we try to make it as seamless as possible for you. Thank you for asking.
Cool.
Yeah, and if you go to the website, that's where you'll also see there is a social shelter webpage. I will also put that here because I'm working to keep that updated as the move happens. But it does tell a little bit more about the history and what's happening. So if you're looking for updates, you can always go there, or you can reach out to me or Mo.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you both for being here and for sharing all of that. It's really good, not just for us to know, but so we can also kind of spread the word amongst the people that we know in the neighborhood of what's happening and how to offer support.
Yeah, thank you. I actually think that's a really important part. Mo and I want to be respectful, as the new kids in the neighborhood, so to speak. And so anybody you think we should talk to, I know Mo and I are doing some one-on-one meetings with some people in the community, and we're working with the South Seattle precinct as well, and just different types of bodies of entities that we're just hoping to learn from community members, as well as really show up as neighbors that want to be a part of the community and support.
Awesome. Organizations that come to my mind off the top of my head that you probably already know about or have already talked to would be the Rainier Beach Action Coalition and Tilt Alliance, which operates the urban farm and wetlands near Beersheba Park.
Okay, yeah, we haven't talked to the Tilth Alliance. That's great.
Because they have a lot of, I don't know, they've done a lot of programs in the past, working with youth, employment, getting them into like agricultural jobs and on the farm that's in Rainier Beach and otherwise. I don't know exactly what programs they have going on right now.
Cool, we'll check them out. I see Mo writing that down too.
Yeah.
They're a good resource.
Nice.
Carol, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, I don't, You may already know a lot about Goodwill, what Seattle Goodwill does, because they offer a lot of job opportunities and training for jobs for people that need, you know, and yeah, transition stuff. And I've volunteered with them a lot over the years, and they do great work and help, and it's all free. So buy your things at Goodwill. It helps provide free training.
That's right. I love Goodwill. Cool. Yeah, we should reach out to them and just make sure they know we're going to be closer by. That's a very good idea.
Vicki?
And we have some neighborhood free food distribution areas that are pretty impressive. I see Thursdays and Saturdays in Rainier Beach Old Town, and then Saturdays a little bit further down in Rainier Valley. Tyrone's got some kind of connection with Safeway or whatever, but he's got everything, all the pastries and cheese and everything. And then all around this whole area, there's these little free pantries, which are perfect for young people because they're hungry 24/7. And there's usually very portable things you can grab out of the little free pantries, and they're all around.
Vicki, the one from Tyrone is in the Central District.
Okay.
Yeah, it's near Garfield High School. I was there last Saturday. Oh, there's also a Food Lifeline. I was there today.
Is that the one at the community center? They give out
Yes.
massive amounts of foods. Once
Yeah.
they know that you guys are in operation, they'll hook you up.
Yeah, we actually, Food Lifeline is a very, very strong partner of ours. So, but we haven't, I didn't know that they distributed food directly in the neighborhood. We usually drive to their warehouse to pick food up. So that's really good to know.
No,
Yeah.
it's a drive-through. Yeah, they ask how many people in your home, and there are 2 of us. We get 2 boxes of food.
Wow.
A lot of stuff. So I give one to our daughter, and
Another tip is the Seattle School District is trying to keep their kitchen staff all employed and using their benefits. And the families and students are not coming by the schools and picking up the meals. So they put it out there to the community, come and get food. And the 2 closest distribution sites here are Rainier View Elementary or Rainier Beach High School. And you could just go to Seattle School District menu. They have usually 5 different selections every single day. And when you have youth in your area, they can just stroll on down there and get a breakfast and lunch. And they will try to give them 10 breakfasts and lunch because
they will eat them.
Points for how much they distribute, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right. Well, thank you again for being with us tonight. We really appreciate it. We're going to have one last opportunity for anyone to give any other announcements they might have. And then we'll call it a night. Going once. Going twice. All right.
I move we adjourn. And thank you very much, Randy and Mo.
Thanks for having us, and
Thank
happy
you.
holidays, y'all.
You too.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.